Hey, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a while. Um, I have, well, it's only really feasible for me to stream do long streams, and really videos, unless it's the weekend for me. Sometimes I can do Wednesdays and Thursdays, sometimes, maybe get a little bit in before I go into work or the night before. But the week usually gets to me, and I just want to sleep so I have enough energy to function at work. Um, so for now, I think Sundays and Tuesdays are probably going to be my streaming days. Video gaming. I mean, I tend to do my video gaming while I'm on stream, because if I'm gonna video game, it's gonna be for that's what I'm gonna be doing, is gaming, for quite a while, until I've had my fill, or I've died more times than I care to fucking show you guys on camera. Um, but other than that, I'm cooking some wings in the oven right now. Other than that, welcome. I hope you guys have had a really good Easter. I hope you've had your Easter dinner and gotten your fill. If you are younger, then you might have gotten some cool gifts for Easter. If that's your family's way, congratulations. Easter time is always a good time for new toys and video games and whatnot. Hope where's my coffee? All right, so I hope you have something to drink, something to eat. Like I said, I have wings coming, and something to smoke. I've got a couple options today, in addition to the normal dabs. I've also got my one hitter in use, which have been around for a real long time. They usually tend to look like false cigarettes, so nobody looks at you twice when you're taking a hit, like in public, or while you're on the road, or outside the shopping mall, like because you've had enough people, and you just want to get some fresh air and some decent quiet for a hot second before you go back in. I'm gonna have to flip my wings here in a minute. 1 second. I got like 2 minutes before I have to flip the wings. Not really 2 minutes. It's like an hour and some change. All right, an hour, a minute and some change. So, start us off. Yeah, see, just like a regular cigarette. usually they usually go with what is called a dugout. And this contains 2 chambers. One to put your actual your one hitter in, so you can travel with it. Where is it? Where is it? Right there. Yeah, right here. Yep, right here. You can just slide it right in right there, and it goes down like that. And on the other side is a well, for Pete's sake, that you can put your grinded herb up in, and then you just take your one hitter and you kind of like jam the one hitter down into it, so that it gets about, I think it's like a half a prescription hit, but it's a full, it's a hit, really. You can grease that fucking pan as much as you want. It always finds a way to fucking stick. Anyway, so it's a quick rundown of the one hitter, and just forgot what it was called. Anyway, I said it on the... Oh, I'll probably remember it. Well, maybe I do smoke too much. But that's no concern of mine. Oh yeah, it's good coffee. It's bothering me. Dugout! There we go. For a minute there, I thought I was gonna have to look that motherfucker up again. I was like, "Come on, man! You have a bigger brain, bigger, better brain than this. I swear." Again, happy Easter to everyone. We've made it to another spring. Whole, healthy, at least on our own 2 feet, you know. So for today, I've got a few things set out for us. Let's go ahead and bring this over. And while we are listening to some music, I can bring this up and there we go. I think on Tuesday we'll continue with the Outer Worlds. Tonight I'm probably going to do Atomic Heart. But we have a bunch of other stuff. I have a new channel for you guys to look at. Not for me, for somebody I just discovered. And they do some good work. So I'll share that with you. Yeah, we're gonna look at this, this. Oh shit. And this, and I have to go back and get history. Shit. What did I just... There it is. Okay. Yes, yeah, so we have a few things to look at today. I've got a lot of stuff to change. Okay. Why did the music stop? I need the music. Kick. Alrighty then. So, these guys right here, they're called The Party, obviously. They're doing pretty well. Much better than I plan on doing here. Well, I don't know. Who knows what the fuck is going to happen. Like, subscribe, share, please. But these guys, they've got a show going. 3 episodes out right now. Their own schedule as of right now. They just started their shows, so there's only like 3 episodes. So I'm assuming there's probably going to be one like weekly or something, or maybe hopefully. But it's really good, well acted, very likable people all around. So check them out. Give them your love. I don't want to like I don't want to show the episodes here because I don't want to ruin anything for you. Go check it out. And here we're going to that's going to be our first video, and I'm going to go check on my window real quick. Mm-hmm.
Wings up?
Mm-hmm.
They good?
Yep. Yes, they are. You're back, Twig.
Yeah,
Hmm.
by the time I got there, we played Pictionary. We had to draw the picture, guess the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't draw because I ain't getting ass up there drawing. I guessed the movie on one. It was No Country for Old Men.
Uh-huh.
That's a hard one, dude.
Mm-hmm.
That old man, and I saw the mountain ranges in the back. I said, hold up for a minute. I never did.
All right, these are a little hot for me to get on now. So while I wait for those to cool off, let's go and contemplate what happened to Alex Murphy when he was turned into Robocop.
And then complained that...
And this is by Hasselhoff team. I don't know if it's related to Michael Hasselhoff or anything. I don't know.
He still makes humane decisions. Alex Murphy is a star graduate, a devout Catholic, and a caring father. All reports say he has a great sense of duty. He was the first and the most successful candidate in the Robocop program. It all takes place in a world where a mundane news bulletin usually contains threats of nuclear war, man-made disasters, strikes, ozone layer destruction, and so on. This universe has its own infamous city of Detroit, where crime is rampant, and the robber may in turn get robbed as soon as he takes the money off his victim. OCP, a techno-giant corporation, is slowly taking over the city. So much so, in fact, that they have already signed a contract, which gives them control over the city's law enforcement and finances. Obviously, this allows for testing military prototypes in urban environments. The demonstration of pt1, a military robot, leaves the chief executive of the corporation skeptical. Because of the underdeveloped AI and a system error, an unwieldy pt1 starts squealing and growling like a wild animal and kills one of the executives, turning him into bloody pulp. Afterwards, the younger generation of the corporates are granted permission to carry out a project requiring a human donor. Officer Alex Murphy, who was transferred to a precinct in western Detroit on that fateful day, becomes one of the likely candidates. Murphy and Lewis were chasing criminals, led by the self-proclaimed king of crime in Detroit, a sick sadist called Clarence Bodiker. Murphy's first shift in the new precinct turned out to be his last. He was mercilessly shot by Bodiker's gang, and his entire right arm was ripped off. In just a few minutes he was pronounced dead. But, as we find out later, the medics managed to salvage his brain. The next time Murphy wakes up, he sees the world through an artificial optical system. Its first version was just one camera connected to his optic nerves. It was so simple that one of the engineers could twist it around with her hand. Apart from that, the engineers told the project manager that they salvaged Alex's left arm. The manager was not too happy about it. He reminded them that he'd ordered to implement a fully prosthetic body, and since Alex had signed all the papers, they are free to do whatever they want with his corpse. The Robocop's manifestation is a cyborg that may look unwieldy, but actually is quite nimble and has quick reflexes, all according to his creator's plan. His armor is made of Kevlar-coated titanium and can withstand serious firepower. In part 2 we learn that what remains of the old Alex is in fact just 2 pieces of flesh, described as not enough to even call it a corpse. Keeping in mind that the manager gave an order to amputate his left arm, it's possible that whatever was left of Murphy's tissue was not placed into the robot. Unlike the drug addict guy from episode 2, it was the other way around. More and more of Murphy's tissue was removed and replaced with cybernetics. We never learn what exactly was left of Murphy's human body. What's obviously there is the brain, with chips implanted to stabilize its performance. We can clearly
Frank's
see
Red
this
Hot
in
Wings,
Robocop
they're
2
good.
and the 2014 remake, which share this approach. In Robocop 3, OCP commands Dr. Lazarus to add implants to Robocop's brain to curb his emotional perception and response. 20 years after the release of the original film, its creators clarified that the human face we can see under Robocop's helmet is in fact Murphy's face, which was removed from his corpse and placed onto a robot's head. The head already had Alex's brain in it. The makeup for the film was executed in a way that this effect of a human face put on a robot skull looked very believable. We can confirm that it is in fact his face, as on his forehead there's still a mark left by Bodica's bullet. But under the skin, there's no muscle, just cold, hard metal. According to the author's concept, even when someone has their memories and feelings erased, they still retain just a tiny spark of humanity. So if Murphy looks at himself in the mirror and sees a robot instead of a human, he might lose his mind. In the 2014 remake, Murphy's head was intact, well, most of it. Some other parts that were salvaged included his lungs, heart, thorax, and left hand. Just like Kane, the drug addict cyborg, Murphy retains his spinal cord, which helps him control his robotic body. Basically, all organic and cybernetic elements have similar modes of interaction. From what Dr. Garcia said, it seems like there are other elements of nervous system apart from the brain that had to be used. She's an expert after all. The neural link between his organic tissue and prosthetics lets Murphy control his body. At the same time, it allows him to feel real pain. In episode 2, Kane's minions tore away Murphy's parts which had no organic elements, but still he screamed in pain. He then spent days in agony, while the finances for his treatment were under approval. The only thing that kept him alive was that his brain was stimulated by electric impulses. Pain was also a way to execute the hidden fourth directive in his mind. Robocop can't arrest OCP's chief executives, and if he tried, he'd suffer from excruciating pain. According to their logic, that's the way it works. But when Murphy sees dreams about his past life, he feels the same excruciating pain. Just like the fourth directive, a certain protective system activates when he sees these dreams. These are things he isn't supposed to see. In the 2014 Robocop, Dr. Norton wakes Murphy up by linking his spinal cord to his spine, even though he has no spine anymore. The spinal cord transmits sensory information to the brain, which helps the body adapt to and evaluate its surroundings. So this helps him get back in touch with reality, in his new body this time. The remake does a great job at answering some questions about Robocop's functionality from a scientific point of view. In the original film, Robocop had some kind of digestive system, as his organic components needed nutrients in order to function. He also had a system which imitated blood circulation, along with an artificial heart made in Japan. It was used to deliver the nutrients to his body parts. Of course, organic matter needs oxygen as well. So in the remake, Robocop also has a pair of lungs. Some kind of respiratory system was also needed for the original Robocop. Robocop doesn't have an excretory system, but he still needs to remove redundant substances from his body. The remake showed us how Murphy's blood was purified. Another peculiar moment was when Dr. Norton removed Murphy's emotional responses, making him almost as emotionless as the original Robocop. This effect was achieved by installing dopamine absorption modules. However, Murphy's brain managed to override the system. Just like in the original, it was triggered by memories of his past life, particularly his murder. The scientists failed to explain this malfunction. You can't put a man into a machine and then complain that he still makes humane decisions. In the original trilogy, his self-determination is unclear. Is he a man? Is he a machine? In the remake, when Murphy died for the first time, he was given a chance to feel his emotions that shaped his identity. He was horrified to learn that he became a monster, a subhuman, and would have to live on like that. In the original, despite constant flashbacks, Murphy tells Lewis that he has feelings for his family, but has no memory of them. He is curious about his family, but not attached to them emotionally. Peter Waller, who played Robocop, said that even though Robocop can't rationalize and feel like a human, there is still a bit of humanity left in him. But the film never mentions any kind of emotional turmoil or negative self-determination in Robocop's mind. His main drive is his sense of duty. That's what makes him such a good cop. So, is he a man or a machine? It's simple, really. His friends call him Murphy. The rest of the world calls him Robocop.
Yep.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like.
Certainly. Oh, yes, sir. Certainly do.
You can't put a man into a machine.
In 2335, humans are awakened 2 hours every 6 months because only oxygen left on Earth. I'm intrigued, ladies and gentlemen, so let's check it out.
To ensure the safety of all American citizens, the movie opens up with the U.S. president announcing to the nation that his administration is doing everything possible to ensure that their way of life continues. He assures that the priority is to ensure the safety of all American citizens. It is then revealed that a biochemical weapons-related disaster has wiped out the majority of humanity and rendered the air unbreathable. Due to this, the United States government seems to have hastily constructed a few makeshift underground bunkers, where some scientists are kept in cryogenic sleep until and unless the air is no longer toxic. Each bunker is maintained by a couple of workers who are awakened for 2 hours every 6 months. In the next scene, we are introduced to two workers at one such facility, named Bauer and Cartwright. Bauer wakes up from his slumber and glides out of his pod, feeling nauseous. Being an engineer by profession, he begins to examine some computer displays before his coworker Cartwright awakens. Following this, the two go about their normal lists of tasks during one wake cycle. They inspect the air quality above and note that it is still toxic. They also notice that the workers from other facilities have already checked in. However, the communication between facilities does not appear to be feasible. Cartwright examines photographs of his friends and family before Bauer reminds him that they are all deceased. That's why they call him Buzzkill Bauer. Bauer then hands him some data to examine, only to discover that there has been seismic activity. As a result, they go check on one of the other sleepers to make sure everything is okay. In the midst of this, Cartwright looks at a photograph of his wife Abby and has a hallucination that she is beside him. This vision of his wife prompts him to talk to her, but Bauer is not pleased with this distraction. Cartwright believes that the sleepers are still alive and that they are the future of humanity. He has even developed a formula to determine how long they should remain in their sleep. Based on his calculations, he predicts that they may need to remain asleep for at least 20 more shifts. However, Bauer whines that the two of them are squandering their lives for the sake of the sleepers' survival. Just before the 2 hours are up. Unfortunately, Cartwright's sleeping chamber catches fire as a result of the recent seismic activity. There was a 0.05% chance of him being awake for this. He screams for Bauer to bring the fire extinguisher, but by the time they manage to put out the fire, the sleeping pod has been destroyed. Bauer also injures his hand in the process. As the stopwatch reaches 0, the lights go out and the air supply is cut off. With the help of a flashlight,
shit.
Cartwright reads the manual and learns that there is an emergency override. The two of them frantically search for the emergency air supply valve and eventually manage to locate it and turn it on. As the duo waits for the air supply to kick in, they share personal details about themselves. Bauer admits to having a wife and 3 daughters, and because one of the requirements for the job was that he be unmarried, he chose to lie. Shortly after, the power is restored, the reserve air supply is turned on, and the clock is reset for another 2 hours. Without further ado, the two proceed to the storeroom in search of a spare chamber. Sadly, they don't find one, so they are forced to look for another storage facility. With the help of the map, they walk to the basement, despite the fact that Cartwright is severely claustrophobic. Fortunately, their hard work pays off as they are able to find a spare chamber, which they bring back to the facility and
nice.
set up. When it's finished, Cartwright suggests that he should go to sleep first, in case there are any issues. However, he stalls for a few moments, so Bauer decides to go in instead. Just when the pod activates, Bauer hears a leaking sound and realizes that the air inside is thinning out. As Cartwright goes to check on it, Bauer desperately screams to be let out, but Cartwright doesn't hear him. Suddenly, the chamber malfunctions and sucks Bauer down, causing him to suffocate. He is about to die a painful death when Cartwright arrives in the nick of time and frees him by cutting him loose. However, in the process, he also destroys the chamber. Now that there are no other spare chambers in the facility, Bauer insists that they eject a random sleeping person in order to free up a chamber. Cartwright refuses, stating that they are obligated to look after those people and keep them alive. However, Bauer argues that they should prioritize their own survival over others. Cartwright finally gives in and considers using morphine to euthanize one of the sleepers. But right then, he has another hallucination of Abby, who convinces him that there must be another way. Seeing his hesitation, Bauer decides to do it himself, but Cartwright stops him, saying that they are not murderers. This leads to a minor physical altercation, which ends after both of them become exhausted. Subsequently, they examine the blueprints and discover a code, ABC, that belongs to another facility. Cartwright believes that the ABC facility is adjacent to theirs and may contain spare parts. Hearing this, Bauer warns that reaching it would necessitate breaking the air seal, potentially releasing toxic air. The duo knows that the mission is a risky one, but it is something that they have to complete. Hence, with no other options available, Cartwright dons a hazmat suit and exits the facility, with Bauer providing guidance over the radio. Along the way, Cartwright encounters a significant amount of blue dust, which Bauer identifies as an airborne impurity. The latter also fixes some cameras, which makes navigation easier for him. In the next scene, Cartwright finds the entrance to the sister facility, but finds that the lock is jammed. However, with some advice from Bauer, he eventually manages to gain entry. Inside, he shockingly discovers that the facility has been inactive for a considerable time, and that everyone there is deceased. This makes Cartwright feel hopeless about his chances of survival. But just then, he has another hallucination of Abby. She motivates him to stay strong and persevere to the last breath. Meanwhile, Bauer directs him to an air duct located about 10 yards away. Cartwright is initially hesitant to enter the duct due to his claustrophobia, but he has no other option. As he makes his way inside, he comes across numerous dead bodies, adding to the difficulty of the situation. The radio signal also begins to weaken as he proceeds further, so Bauer attempts to boost it up. He looks for a knife and finds it in the toolbox rather than where he left it earlier. This raises his suspicion, so he decides to check the video footage and determine how the knife ended up there. After reviewing the footage, he shockingly discovers that Cartwright was standing next to him the entire time when he was close to suffocating in the spare chamber. This indicates that the latter may have attempted to kill him, but changed his mind at the last minute. Meanwhile, Cartwright senses that something is wrong. He finally makes his way to the facility and starts to look around. The ceiling opens onto the planet's surface, and as he looks out, he sees that the city has been demolished by a nuclear bomb. Cartwright assumes that this must have occurred a long time ago. After this, as he is exploring the area, he discovers that the sleepers' chambers have all been destroyed, despite the computer system reporting all workers in the facility as alive and well during previous wake cycles. It appears to be a deception so as to maintain their sanity and make them believe that they are not alone. Bauer, who is devastated by the video footage, expresses that the entire system is a lie and that no one can be trusted. Cartwright also starts to believe that they might be the only ones who survived. Now that he is running low on air, he heads back to their own facility. He reaches the door and initiates the decontamination process. On the other side of the door, he sees Bauer holding the knife and asks where he found it. Cartwright realizes that Bauer is aware of the truth, so he asks to be let in so that he can explain. However, Bauer becomes furious and points his gun at Cartwright, accusing him of trying to kill him. He also regards Cartwright as a threat to both him as well as the sleepers. When Bauer refuses to let him in, Cartwright, who is running out of air, rushes back to the ABC facility. At one point, he is lost as he can't find any way out. At the same time, he experiences another vision of his wife, who points him in the direction of the air ducts. How the hell does she know that? In the midst of all this, Bauer berates him over the radio, saying that the betrayal and lies hurt him the most. However, Cartwright simply ignores him and continues on his path, leading him back to his own facility. He removes his hazmat suit and tries to head inside the facility's control room, but Bauer blocks his way with a gun, threatening to shoot him. Cartwright quickly takes cover and tries to reason with him, emphasizing that they might be the only ones left alive. Regardless, Bauer continues to pursue Cartwright through the facility, claiming that he cannot let him go because he's afraid he will kill him in his sleep. Eventually, after a prolonged chase, Cartwright manages to find refuge in a medical bay where he obtains some morphine. He thinks of using it to murder his coworker, but then again he starts having cold feet. While Cartwright is deliberating, Abby appears in front of him and urges him to kill Bauer or else he will. She convinces him that he must do it in order for them to be together in the future. Following Abby's encouragement, Cartwright returns to the control room carrying a gas bottle, but suddenly Bauer appears from behind and shoots him in the shoulder. As Cartwright lies on the ground bleeding, he shows Bauer a photo and pleads for mercy. During this, he also begins to talk to Abby, but Bauer yells that there is no one here. In a moment of distraction, Cartwright seizes the opportunity and attacks Bauer, causing him to drop his gun. He then runs out of the control room before any further damage is done. Meanwhile, Bauer picks up the photograph, walks to the sleeper pods, and finds its match. After realizing that Cartwright's wife is in one of the sleepers, he threatens him to come out or else he will kill Abby. The situation becomes very precarious, but Cartwright finally gains the upper hand by sneaking up on Bauer and injecting a large dose of morphine into him. Bauer turns around and points the gun at Cartwright, but he soon holds it down and drops on the floor. As the morphine starts to take control over his body, Bauer accepts his fate and makes peace with Cartwright. He asks his coworker to take care of his wife before passing out forever. Following this, Cartwright goes inside a sleeping pod, and before entering cryosleep, he talks to himself that he is now the only one left to keep the place functional. In an epilogue, Cartwright wakes up for another cycle, but this time he appears to have aged by many decades. The sleepers' pods also start to open one by one as the facility system automatically wakes them up. All of them exit their chambers and make their way to the Earth's surface, including Abby. The movie ends as Cartwright approaches his wife, and they share a tearful embrace, finally reunited after all these years. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.
I don't know what this movie is, though. I mean, honestly, it felt more like an episode. Okay. Bloop. Gaming in the 90s, yes. This is Radical Dreamer Steve. Bloop, 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 bloop.
Hey everyone, this is Radical Dreamer Steve. Welcome back. Today we're going all the way back to the 1990s. Wow. Yes, I imagine for a lot of you this is a very nostalgic decade. For me, it was when I grew up playing video games. And well, if you weren't there for it, that's totally okay. Come join in the fun, and you can learn about a decade where the only way to online date was to go in creepy chat rooms and message people that you would never see a picture of. Alright, anyway, let's get into it. This is going to be 10 things that I miss about gaming in the 90s. Number 1 is the hardware.
Okay,
differences.
I just wanted to ask.
Now, I imagine a lot of these are going to have a preface note. Yes, of course, Nintendo still has their wonky hardware compared to what Sony and Microsoft are offering. But in general, Sony and Microsoft have kind of chased very high performance hardware that basically mimics a computer. Back in the 90s, it's totally different. You would never confuse the Sega Genesis sound chip with the SNES sound chip. You would never look at an N64 game and be like, oh yeah, that might be a Sega Saturn game too. No, it was definitely like the consoles you bought had very, very different hardware, which made very different looking games, different sounding games, and they attracted different developers to make different types of games for that hardware. You know, for instance, the Saturn is loaded with these great Konami 2D fighters, whereas with the 64, I think Capcom felt like they had to go for a big 3D game, and that's where Mega Man 64, oof, yeah, not great. You have these really, really cool differences, and that's why you have like SNES kids versus Genesis kids, because the SNES had totally, totally different games, a totally different feel, different vibe than the Genesis did. And the same with the PS1 and 64. And I mentioned the Saturn because I'm a huge Sega Saturn fan, but I know for most of you that wasn't even a relevant console. Maybe I should say the Dreamcast. That was still late 90s, right? Number 2 is
Dreamcast was more relevant.
Yes, there
Saturn
are,
was
of course,
good.
still platformers, but I do feel like there's barely any 3D platformers, and 2D platformers have sort of been relegated to Mario, which, you know, there hasn't been a new Mario game since 2017. Back in the day, there was loads of platformers for every console. Sonic, Mario, Donkey Kong Country, Rayman, you name it, there's so many good 2D platformers. And they were often system sellers for their consoles. You know, it was impossible not to have a SNES and just be mind-blown by games like Kirby Superstar, Donkey Kong Country, Mario World, Yoshi's Island, and the list seriously goes on. It was really fun to see them go into 3D. You know, you're getting games like Spyro the Dragon, which as a kid I was obsessed with. I find it a little bit harder to play now, though it's still fun. Crash Bandicoot, Banjo-Kazooie, so many interesting platforming ideas. And this was a time where platformers were really system sellers. Whereas now they're sort of they played kind of second fiddle to kind of action games and really long RPG games. And so you still see them around. You know, I played like Kenna Bridge of Spirits, but they're often like mixed with sort of a very action-oriented gameplay. Unlike the old games that were more focused on like exploration and jumping around platforms and stuff. Number 3. Old school 3D and using your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I get it. I know what you're going to say. 5th generation PS1, 64 Saturn, it's pretty ugly by modern standards. And I will grant you that. There's some games I do find unplayable. Like Twisted Metal 2 is a game I loved as a kid on the PS1. And it's not a game I can play now because it literally just looks like pixel vomit thrown up on your screen. I was playing Panzer Dragoon the other day, and despite the game looking like pretty ugly, I had a lot of fun with it. There's just a charm to these games. There's so many cool ideas happening, so many cool art styles, and the hardware limitations made for some very interesting techniques and ideas. And you see all these different kinds of games that look very different aesthetically. And I tie that with the imagination. Because with a modern game, you know, everything's kind of fleshed out for you. You don't need to imagine as much. Now, I'm not saying there's no imagination involved. With old games, you have to imagine pretty much like a lot of the background, a lot of the stuff that's happening between your characters, the dialogue. And one example, like a week ago, I was playing Shining the Ark. Just got this game; it's super cool. I was filling in the gaps for the battle. Since it's first person, much like a Dragon Quest game, there's certain attack animations. Like I had a character defend, and then my second character I came in there and killed the enemy, and I was just imagining my characters like in this battle surrounding this like monster, taking their turns fighting it, and I was like, wow. If I was playing a modern game, I don't think I'd have this much imagination involved with the combat. Number 4, Final Fantasy. Yes, this is a little bit more niche, I guess, more of an RPG series. That's not your thing, you can skip to number 5. Anyway, any old RPG fan knows that Final Fantasy was the king of the genre in the 90s. Squaresoft in general, as well as Enix for that matter, was really, really good. And pretty much any FF game that was dropped was pretty much always worth playing. Now, we'll forget Mystic Quest for now. Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all these games were incredible. Final Fantasy Tactics. Oh, 9 might have been 2000, but whatever. Final Fantasy 9 came out in 2000, but it was definitely developed in the 90s, so boom, I'm going with that. Anyway, Final Fantasy, I just miss just being excited for the series, just knowing that the next game is probably going to be something incredible, interesting, great characters, great soundtrack, great combat system, and after 10, I couldn't get into the series anymore. I know some people really like 12, I know some people really like 14, I know some people are very excited about 16, but for me, FF just has not been the same since 10. Number 5, Konami. Yes. Now, Konami started to make a small comeback. We're seeing the Suikoden remakes, freaking amazing. And we're getting Silent Hill 2, hopefully Metal Gear Solid. So, we're getting back there. But in the 90s, Konami was such a great company. They had Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Metal Gear Solid, Vandal Hearts, Silent Hill, Suikoden, Gradius, and the list seriously goes on. To keep reiterating how great these things were back then, it was just a period where pretty much anything Konami was making was something that was probably worth playing. And they just made games in so many different genres and had so many home runs. And it was just one of those incredible things. And their games usually were not always something you would expect, like what you were getting from certain developers. But Konami would always surprise you with really, really cool games. You'd be able to change their series and morph them into very interesting ideas. And you know what? I hope Konami does return to form, but beating the Konami of the 1990s is going to be very, very hard to top.
Yeah,
Number
Konami
6,
back in the day was awesome.
New technology seeming mind-blowing. Now, new technology does still seem mind-blowing.
90s Konami.
Maybe this is partially because I was a naive kid in the 90s, but I feel like the 90s was a time of very weird, wacky, cool hardware ideas, some of which just totally fell flat, some of which didn't. I mean, I remember as a kid playing with a Game Boy camera.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a shitty pixelated camera in black and white, but the Game Boy camera for that time as a kid was super cool. I mean, at that time, that's the only camera I had access to. There were no smartphones, so for me to be able to snap pictures on my Game Boy was the coolest thing ever. You could even print them out if you had a printer. Game Boy player, putting your Game Boy on a Super Nintendo, awesome. Sega Channel, this is not so much hardware, but hardware software mix. FX chips and carts. This was just a period, I mean, again, with the 3D games, this is the hardware limitations, just really forcing the big players to come up with some really unique ideas regarding how to best utilize the hardware and make their software more appealing. And, I mean, it was just so cool to see all these things. I mean,
Splatterhouse.
I'm not saying
Great
I
game.
link cables and all that stuff, but definitely cool to see just so many fun and fresh ideas coming out there. Number 7, local multiplayer. The Switch has brought it back to some extent, but the 80s and 90s were all about local multiplayer. I mean, pretty much this is before online multiplayer, so duh. Anyway, back then, I mean, there were so many great multiplayer games. Mortal Kombat, Mario games, Donkey Kong Country, Super Smash Bros., Diddy Kong Racing, and the list goes on and on and on. I mean, that's a very long list there. And so I'm totally fine with online multiplayer.
Donkey Kong Country was one of my favorite games on the Super NES.
Just playing with someone on the couch, or getting to use that time to get to know somebody pretty well, or their taste in games.
There used to be this really cool side-scrolling
it's just much
shooter for the PlayStation 2, I believe, called Einhander.
I mean, come on. It's so much better when you just
It was a really
dominate your
good
friend
game.
in the game of Super Smash Bros. And you rub salt in the wound after kicking your friend's ass. I mean, come on.
Super NES, I
Do
remember
that
Super
online
R-Type.
very
That
easily.
was a really good game, too. That was
Number
a nice
8.
side-scrolling shooter.
Waiting to see series turned into 3D.
My cousin got
Okay,
me for that,
now,
that for
it
my
can't
birthday
really
one
be
year.
overstated how big that jump to 3D was. I mean, if you were playing a Super Nintendo, then you saw the 64. At that time, you would have been mind blown. And similar with the PS1 and Saturn. We saw stuff like Mario go to 3D, Zelda, Metal Gear Solid, and they were just resounding successes. And there was this idea, I think, at that time, that pretty much any series could translate to 3D and become better. Obviously, that's not entirely true. We saw series like Castlevania, Bomberman, and Donkey Kong Country, Mega Man. These games kind of fell flat in their first
I did not
attempt
like
to go
Virtua
3D.
Fighter.
But don't forget,
And I didn't like
there's a
Tekken.
lot of games in the 90s that we hadn't really seen gone 3D yet, like Metroid, Kirby, Nintendo
I
series
was
predominantly, because
Killer
they
Instinct,
invented
Super
Sonic for that matter, which
Street
finally
Fighter,
happened in, I
and
think, 1999 with the Dreamcast. But,
Soul Calibur.
Yeah, so it was just so exciting to see these games. And I will never forget the first time I saw Sonic Adventure. My friend John
Weapon
played
Lord,
his Dreamcast,
if anybody
and I was like,
remembers that
"Holy
Super
cow,
NES
this is
fighting game.
mind-blowing how good this looks. Like, I cannot believe the game looks
Very
this
much
beautiful."
ahead of its time. It was great.
And now I look back at that and I'm like, I don't know why I was so amazed at that, but this is the 90s. Number 9, light gun games.
Yeah.
If you have your old light guns and you've only got an HD TV, sorry, they're not going to work. You need an old CRT TV to get your light gun to work. And this really relegates light gun games to 20th century and increasingly rare arcades, because occasionally arcades do have light gun games when you can find an actual arcade. Now, while Duck Hunt is probably the game that most people probably think of with a light gun, there are just so many others. Like,
So
for me,
many.
interestingly, my friend that had a Saturn really got me into Virtua Cop and Area 51 as a kid. And Area 51 is one of those games I played at the arcade every time I went to an arcade. So, yeah, I always found light gun games to be super fun.
Yeah,
really
they
good
were
for
great theater
multiplayer, and
games.
just like a nice change of pace if you're
Or
looking for
hotel
something more
games or
arcadey
arcade games.
and just like action oriented. So definitely missed that. I imagine a lot of people probably feel the same. Number 10, gaming magazines.
Yeah, buddy.
I
I
know,
mean, there's
it's
still a
like,
few
how
around.
could you miss this? I'm like, okay,
Game Informer.
I don't miss GameStop pushing these freaking subscriptions on me every time I buy something, but there is something special about that magical moment of waiting one day a month and getting the magazine and being like, oh my god, I can finally see all the new games.
Yeah, anytime you go in
coming out. And yeah, I'm not complaining that the internet allows me to see
GameStop,
stuff at like the speed
there
of light.
you
Like,
can
they're
sign
barely
up
finished
for
developing
a
the
magazine
game, and I already know
subscription.
what's going on with it. Like, cool. But there was something super awesome about that day where the magazine came and you just got so excited for it. You're like, you see it, you unwrap it, you go to your friend, and you're like, let's look at this magazine, let's see what's coming. And you anticipated this day, and the anticipation is just not the same. That I can just go online and just Twitter blows up with something.
Oh, and
I'm
yes,
like,
sir.
that
I can
looks
most
kinda
definitely eat a
cool.
bag of wings by
Sort of just, like,
myself.
stuff
That's one of my
just
favorite
dropping
fucking
versus like having that anticipation build into something.
finger foods.
And even the internet, when they try to build it up,
wings.
instead of like, oh, we're gonna
Hands
announce
down.
something really cool in like 3 weeks. I'm like, okay, cool.
I'm not entirely
that
sure
till
if
that
I'm,
comes out,
if
because
I
there's
like
just
this
so much
whole,
other
like you
stuff
being
in
this
background noise
this
on the
close to me.
internet. But back then it was just
But,
totally different. Like a gaming magazine, it was like physical in your hand.
I mean, it's okay.
Dropped off at your house once a month. So exciting.
Yeah.
GameStop, get the hell out of here with these freaking subscriptions. I don't think they do that anymore. I don't imagine they can. Like, how is GameStop still going? All right, guys, those are my top 10 things I missed from gaming in the 90s. I could probably make a list of 20 or 30 things, but let's not do that. That's where I'm going to relay it and hand it to you guys. So, guys, just tell me your top 1, 2, or 3, the things you miss about gaming in the 90s, and the things that you really feel nostalgic about that have changed quite a bit. All right, guys, this was a fun one. Hope to do something a little more intense next time. Oh, and please, please, please smash a like and a subscription if you can. That really helps the channel. Really appreciate it. All right, guys, game on.
Their fucking house is right down the fucking street from Aunt Rosie's, Josh.
Cool.
I mean, like, Aunt Rosie's is like fucking 5 minutes away from them. Huh.
Too much. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette. ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I don't know if you can see him. You're a little bit hungry. Yeah, because he's sometimes really camera shy. Ladies and gentlemen, this little gentleman right here, this is Gnome. He's my best friend. My love. He's a good boy. Sorry, baby. I just wanted to show you off for a minute. Got him as a kitten from a rescue shelter. Always go for a rescue before you buy. I know there's adoption fee and all that stuff, but that's not really buying. If you've got the room and the love, adopt a cat. Adopt a dog too, but you generally don't need a lot more room. Well, not all the time if you have a small dog, but most cats are small dogs. So, yeah. But I've ever had him ever since he was a kitten. Ever since you were a kitten, baby. Here, let me get that off. Sounds like a Blue Moon production, or a Blue Man Group production. Blue Moon. It's called Magoma. Wagma. It's a nice song. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a white boy. I can't dance, but at least I get the head movements down. I have rhythm. I swear. Get comfortable. Get comfortable. You're safe. The house is yours right now. Everybody else is outside. Oh, I am sort of paying attention. If you want to chat, let me know. I like talking to people. It's part of my job. I do want to say, if you're a small retailer, I don't mean like, I mean non-corporate. It's just you and your boss and maybe a couple other employees. Or maybe it is a corporate. Maybe it's just like, let's take, for instance, a CVS. But really, I speak more for the convenience store type, where you're going to have contact with your customers long term. What I mean is, like, you're going to see them day in, day out for years. These are your mainstays, the customers that pay your bills and your paycheck. Your staple cornerstone customers. You may have that boss that doesn't really like you to talk too long with your customers. And here's my opinion on that. As long as you're not ignoring your job or your other customers, for that fact, like as long as there's nobody waiting for you for your custom or your whatever, your attention, then by all means carry on a conversation with customers. One, because it fosters continued business with that customer. If they feel more comfortable with talking to you about certain things than they would someone else, especially when they can get the things they need, most if not all, at your shop, then yeah, it is kind of, it's not your duty, but it kind of behooves you to form those conversational relationships with your customers. It helps, I tell you, it really does. One, because you get to know their preferences. They get to know you on a more personal basis, where they actually have an emotional connection to you. It doesn't have to be big or anything. It's just, like, they see your face every day and you see theirs. And as a customer, if you go into a store and they know who you are, maybe not your name, or maybe they do know your name. Like, I'm not really all that great with names, but faces, definitely. They walk in and your face lights up and you're happy to see them. It can make somebody's day. Especially the older folk. They may not have anything else to do today, or anybody else to talk to today. You may be it. They may make a special journey just to come talk to you, because you take the time to listen. And not just listen and go about your like not just listen and it goes in one ear and out the other. Like, they can tell. But when you really, really do that kind of kindness for people, it matters. It's not just for old people too. I've had people come in. I had this one girl come in a while back, and she was having a really bad day. I think she had just broken up with her man, and tears were coming down. And we chit-chatted for a minute, and I asked how she was, what was up, and how what was going on, and she told me. And at the end of the conversation, right before she was gonna leave, I was like, "Hey, would you like a hug?" And she literally melted into my fucking arms, Sometimes people just need to be heard. We could all do with fostering a little bit more compassion. Makes your day easier, I promise you. And even when you put that kind of thing into practice, even the customers that don't necessarily like you or don't come in with the same kind of attitude that most of your other customers come in with, even then, if you put these, if you care about your customer base, even those guys, I mean, okay, so there's this one guy that comes in, and I've heard from other people in my shopping center that he's an asshole. He never smiles, and he's never friendly with anybody. And you kind of just got to take that as it is and be the same with him as you are with everyone else. Hey sir, how you doing? Blah blah blah. Need 2 packs? Sure, just one? Okay. Have a great day. Happy Easter. I may not care. They may not change anything. But make sure you're making the effort. Because the karma usually comes back around. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say about chit-chatting with your customers and forming good relations with them, because it's really important. It can make your shop that much more successful. All right, so we were on to let's put this on pause. And this one is what it was like to be held on the most dangerous island prison colony in history. This ought to be fun. This is by Weird History. Make sure you like and subscribe to their channel. They've always got interesting stuff to teach you.
To remote islands is nothing new. Just ask Australia. Exiling prisoners and political rivals to remote islands is nothing new. Just ask Australia or Napoleon. But nothing holds a candle to the island that was home to Panama's most vilified criminals and political prisoners for nearly 100 years. Today, we're setting sail for Coiba Island, the most dangerous prison colony in history. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel. And let us know in the comments below what other sinister vacation destinations you would like to hear about. Okay, get ready to do some hard time in paradise. The penal colony on Coiba Island first opened its doors to Panama's unluckiest criminals and political prisoners back in 1919. Dubbed Panama's most severe prison, the lockup was home to Los Desaparecidos, also known as the Disappeared, men who vanished from society after committing some kind of horrible crime, or getting on the bad side of a powerful figure, one of the two. You see, due process wasn't exactly a high priority at Coiba Island. In fact, it wasn't even on the list. Only a few of the prisoners housed on the island actually had a trial or any official sentencing waiting for them. Basically, if you were on Coiba Island, you were probably going to be there for a long, long time. Or until you mysteriously vanished. Prisoners sent to Coiba Island started disappearing en masse during the dictatorships of Omar Torrijos and Manuel Noriega. The prisoners weren't called Los Desaparecidos for nothing. After Noriega was given the boot in 1989, the secret culling of prisoners ceased, and Coiba Island went back to merely being a brutal penal colony. Forced residents of Coiba weren't simply just locked up, they were also subjected to horrible psychological and physical torture. A Human Rights Watch report from 1992 described the prisoners experiencing severe and systematic abuse, perpetrated by their jailers throughout 1991. The conditions at the prison were so extreme that 2 inmates who perished in July of that year are believed to have succumbed to torture. That story was corroborated by about 170 fellow inmates, who claimed that they had witnessed and experienced the same kind of extreme abuse on the island. Former Army Ranger and war correspondent Chuck Holton visited the island in the 1980s, hearing stories from the inmates about specific psychological torments that occurred. One particularly cruel mind game involved blindfolding inmates, walking them to the jungle, and staging mock firing squads. The guards would aim their guns at the terrified prisoners and count down 3, 2, 1, but would stop short of actually firing. You know, like a fun practical joke.
Ha ha ha. Practical jokes.
At its peak,
I think
the colony was home to approximately 3.
somebody in Virginia got shot this weekend because of a fucking practical joke. Some YouTuber thought it would be fucking funny to do something to somebody. I didn't read into it, but I did see the mugshot and the dude that, yeah, I saw the 2 people. I was like, watch how you fucking do practical jokes, people.
1,000 prisoners spread out through about 30 camps. Like something out of a Rambo movie, the guards at the Coiba Island penal colony spread themselves throughout the island with small, fortress-like buildings sitting at the north and south side of the island. With the guards up in their towers, the prisoners on the ground were forced to fend for themselves. For some prisoners, this meant constructing small, crude shelters made entirely from natural materials. The others were left in small cells with no windows, furniture, or bathrooms. So it was basically like living in an overpriced apartment in New York, if you had to split it with slightly less roommates. And your landlord regularly threatened to shoot you. The accommodations on Coiba Island were uniquely terrible, which is not unsurprising for a notorious penal colony. It wasn't Firefest bad, but things were pretty rough all the same.
It wasn't even Firefest bad.
So much so
Wow,
that prisoners incarcerated
Firefest.
there would
Wow.
often totally lose their minds. During the late 1980s, visitors discovered a prisoner who had been stuck in a cell for a grueling 7 months. The only contact he'd had with other human beings was being passed a tray of food through a small hole in the door, and he was essentially forced to live every waking moment within inches of his own excrement. The conditions of his confinement were so extreme that when he was finally released, he screamed to be let back into his cell because the sun hurt him. In other
wow.
words, Coiba Island was so intense, it transformed at least one prisoner into an actual vampire. If you weren't rotting away in solitary confinement on Coiba Island, you were probably busting your back doing manual labor. Prisoners on the island could often be found with jobs ranging from farming and landscaping to animal care and breeding. These workers would have to clear their own land to do their jobs, but received no compensation for their work. Sort of like that job you had that didn't offer money but paid in experience. If a prisoner had a particular
Oh, yeah,
skill
you're an
that
unpaid
could make them
intern.
useful,
Hmm.
they
Yeah,
might
we
be
know what that
offered a
is.
small sum, and by small we mean infinitesimal.
Oh, fucking delightful.
As bad as it was to have to live on the Coiba Island penal colony, dying there was somehow almost worse. The luckiest deceased prisoners were tossed into unmarked graves spread throughout several cemeteries across the island. But if the guards didn't particularly feel like getting their shovels out that day,
I didn't show
they
you
did
guys
the
yet.
next best thing. They cut the remains into chewable pieces and threw them to the sharks. In addition to saving valuable grave digging time, the sharks acted as an additional
See?
level of security. Despite the extreme abuse they endured, most prisoners
Luke
did not
Skywalker
dare
and
attempt to swim their
Grogu.
way
Found
to
them at
freedom.
Walmart.
Though it didn't happen often, guards would usually let escaped prisoners go without pursuit. The logic being that either the rough waters or the sharks who patrolled them would finish the job. Explorations of Koiba Island have been slow, and as a result, we don't know much about the island's history before its tenure as a brutal penal colony. We know almost 80% of the island is made up of untouched forest. In the 1990s, Panama sent a team of explorers to the island, where they stumbled across a recent mass grave. After studying the site, the team came to the conclusion that the guards had been hunting the prisoners for sport and throwing the remains into a pit. Apparently, feeding them to sharks was getting boring.
Fucking animals, man.
When an island is as isolated as Koiba Island is, it begins to develop its own ecosystem. Like that dirty dish you left under your bed for 6 months? In 2008, scientists set up cameras on the island to determine just what kind of life had been developing there. They discovered an impressive 17 different kinds of crocodiles,
Oh, wow.
types of snakes, 30 species of bats, and 70 types of ants. And that's just on land. The waters surrounding Koiba Island are chock-a-block with unique sea creatures, including sharks, whales, and a thriving coral reef. And that's not counting
Hell
on the
yeah.
mutants. The penal colony on Koiba Island was closed down in 2004. When the last prisoners finally left, they abandoned the livestock they had tended to for years, because it's not like they were going to take the animals with them. No longer bound by fences or the whims of man, the animals were free to sow their wild oats wherever they wanted. This resulted in farm animals breeding with various indigenous mammals, creating genetically unique hybrid creatures. Visitors to the island have reported seeing mice the size of watermelons, deer with adorably short legs doing their best corgi impressions, and strange lizards who look like they're waiting to be recruited by the shredder. There are also reports of gigantic bats patrolling the sky, just in case you were considering taking a trip to the former island prison. Many of these species are Koiba Island exclusives, not found anywhere else in the world. This is both a good and bad thing. On the one hand, Koiba animals have been allowed to evolve without outside interference, which is both good for the environment and an exciting research opportunity for scientists. On the other hand, it means everything on the island has no fear of humans. According to one visitor, everything on that island wants to bite you. Everything is poisonous. But it's not just the animals that are
Holy
poisonous.
shit.
During his many visits to the island, Chuck Holton has described some unique perils that sound right out of a fantasy novel. According to him, there are trees that produce an acid when it rains that can burn your skin if you stand underneath them.
Yeah,
which you
cochineal
might be doing
tree.
if you're trying to hide from those giant bats. If the giant bats and the poison rain don't kill you, don't worry. There's still over 100,000 acres of unexplored territory on the island, populated by over 1,400 different species still waiting to be discovered.
Wow.
Wait, how do they know there's 1,400 species if we haven't discovered them? If you know there's 1,400, it seems like we've discovered them.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wouldn't be
Penal
surprised.
colony deserves to be haunted, it's Koiba Island. Visitors, former prisoners, and guards alike have shared stories of paranormal activity they've witnessed in the island's lush forests. In fact, one former prisoner attempted to escape not because of any harsh treatment, but because he claimed he was being terrorized by spirits. And one guard recounted a story in which he believed he was chasing a prisoner, only to discover it was some odd, not-of-this-world creature. The experience shook the guard so badly that he later took his own life. Several other bone-chilling stories from the island include ghostly apparitions, blood-curdling screams, and other noises emanating from the abandoned prison. When you add phantoms to the list of physical and mental abuse, you can really understand why some prisoners chose to take their chances with the sharks. Panama has shown interest in opening up Koiba Island for tourism, but for now, it's maintained by a skeleton crew with minimal funding. And if you want to visit, you need to get permission from the government, and probably some.
Yeah, I wouldn't even.
Aside from the ever-present threat
like,
of poisonous mutant
that's-
animals and vengeful ghosts,
Yeah, like not just that it's dangerous because of the wildlife, but the wildlife is unique and probably endangered just because of its uniqueness. I would imagine trophy hunting or big game hunting or some kind of poaching might be something they want to discourage on this island. In fact, it would be kind of like the perfect opportunity for most countries in the world to have a game park that's not touched by man. Like it like they was saying earlier, like their species of like no contact with humans. So like it'd be a nice little reservoir of uniqueness that they could protect. That would be cool if we can do like one cool thing for the environment.
They have recently faced other external threats. Poachers have been hunting the sharks around the island, illegally killing them for their fins. And drug runners routinely use the island as a stop-off point while trafficking drugs throughout the region. Between the untouched wilderness, the unique but hostile wildlife, the poachers, the drug dealers, and the lonesome poltergeists, it might be time to leave Koiba Island the hell alone. So what do you think? Do you think you could have survived being a prisoner on Koiba Island?
Nope.
Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, check out some of these other videos.
I've been to jail, but not like that.
History.
No, I would probably curl up and motherfucking die. Yeah.
An artist living in
Brew?
Rhode Island had just lost his beloved apartment. The place had been his home and sanctuary.
Always subscribe and like the videos that I watch. It's only polite. Plus, I mean, if I like one video, I'm probably going to be interested in watching their other stuff too.
Of creativity for years, but now it was being turned into a parking lot by a big development company, and he had to find a new option fast. He knew just where to go. The company that displaced him had also built a giant mall nearby, and he was going to fight back against the company by living in that mall. Buried inside the structure was a secret that only he knew. A room that had been created by mistake. A leftover space formed by the walls of planned stores and rooms. He discreetly started cleaning it out, filling it with furniture, and making it into a livable apartment. For 4 years, he used the room without anybody noticing and without paying rent. How did he get away with it for so long?
It'd probably be fairly easy if you're smart enough. Let's find out. All by myself.
Michael Townsend had a daily running route that took him right past the space where Providence Place, a shopping mall, was being constructed. This would be the largest shopping mall in Rhode Island, 1.4 million square feet in downtown Providence, where a university used to be. Michael got to see the construction progress every day. As he would run past the site, he would notice specific rooms and spaces being built from the ground up. He could see what it would be for parking, what would be for storage, and what might become stores. It was fun to have an idea of the mall layout before the public. But as he ran every day and made up a mental map of the mall, there was one room he spotted that didn't make any sense. It wasn't an intentional room, but was a hidden space buried in the architecture, surrounded by walls of the planned-out stores and storage spaces. When Michael ran by Providence Place, he would wonder about this leftover room, an empty bonus space accidentally made from the other pieces of the mall. What would they do with it? By the time the mall was finished, Michael had put the question of the room out of his mind. Providence Place was a huge success, and developers decided to capitalize on the momentum. 4 years after opening the mall, they were looking for a new space around the area to develop. This time, they went even closer to Michael, choosing to build in the historic Mill District, where Michael lived and worked with other artists, including his wife, Adriana. He and Adriana and 6 of their friends, who were part of an artist collective called Trummerkind. Their group of friends lived and created in an old industrial building called Fort Thunder. The developers planned to tear down all the old mill buildings and make a supermarket car park. Fort Thunder was knocked down and cleared away by cranes and bulldozers.
That
In
sucks.
Michael's mind, this had all begun with that first mall, the one he had run past every day. The group of artists decided to do a stunt as a form of protest, something related to the mall that symbolized resistance to them losing their homes and spaces. Adriana had a lifelong interest in malls. She used to be a shopaholic who adored mall shopping. Even after curbing the habit, she was still interested in the concept and wrote academically about shopping malls as modern-day colonies. At the time the group was cooking up a plan, it was around the holiday season.
They've been
there were
dying for a
radio
while,
ads
though.
playing for Providence Place Mall. A cheerful woman gushed about how wonderful life would be if you could live in a mall, with everything you need to thrive right
Yeah.
next to you. The group decided to live in the mall for 7 days as their stunt, with the rule being they could not leave for that duration. They would assert that mall spaces belonged as much to them as developers. This discussion jogged Michael's memory. He thought about that old leftover room in the mall that he used to see on his runs, and what might have become of it. He remembered that it had been connected to a small crevice, a gap in the building's structure, which eventually led outside. The crevice had definitely been covered, Michael figured, but he went to check it out anyway. Incredibly, it was still there. Small and sort of hidden, but there. Michael and Adriana turned sideways to squeeze inside. It was a narrow maze, and in places gaps in the floor that would send you plummeting down if you didn't notice them. The couple navigated a series of chambers until they finally found it. A wide, tall abandoned room made from the walls of other surrounding rooms, above an unused storage room in the parking garage, 750 square feet
Wow.
that no one else knew about. It was filled with leftover construction materials, cables, and debris. They discovered there were multiple entry points like the one they came through, including from within the mall itself. If you knew where you were going,
I wonder if it
even
was
enter the room from inside Macy's.
a staging
The group
point
decided
type
to make a
thing
new home
for
themselves
the
with this
workers.
room. If developers could do whatever they want with underdeveloped space, why couldn't they? The developers behind Providence Place had taken away their living spaces, and now they were fighting back and claiming a new space from the mall. Though they still wanted to stay for a full week, the new plan was just to live at the mall, period, with no end date in mind. The 8 artists had to shimmy through a passage only 2 feet wide and covered with grime. They disguised themselves as mall shoppers in nice outfits, sporting big backpacks and Nordstrom bags. First, they had to remove stuff out and clean the hidden room. They stuffed their bags with construction materials and garbage and carried it out. Then, things had to be brought into the space. Big water jugs for cleaning and drinking, clamp lights, and extension cords they plugged into their internal power system. In exchange for using the power, they put $20 into an envelope that they slipped under the mall manager's door. To cover the other entry points, they brought in cinder blocks and constructed a wall to block people from stumbling onto their secret. They even got a door that looked exactly like the doors the mall used, so if anyone came across it, they would just think that it was part of the original design. None of their renovation work was done in secret at nighttime. They worked in the open, fitting into the ebb and flow of the mall goers. When it was time to furnish the space, they just carried in their furniture and decorations, walking through the mall looking like customers who had just made a purchase. The secret home was coming together. There was a 4-piece sectional couch, a table with a TV and PlayStation, a china cabinet, matching silverware and glassware for 8 people, a 6-foot potted plant, a love seat, a decoration throw rug, and a makeshift kitchen. After the original 1-week stunt, Michael, Adriana, and their friends would come and go as they pleased, sometimes staying in the apartment for weeks at a time. There
Wow.
was no running water, so they had to use the mall bathrooms. When the artists weren't in the space watching TV or playing video games, they were free to wander the mall, which they did often as it almost never closed like a late-night movie theater. The group felt that they had subverted the mall's commercial purpose. Providence Place Mall promised an escape from the burdens of everyday life, but that came with a price tag. Trummerkind found a way to capture that promise without being consumers. Rhode Island's largest mall had 4 floors, 170 shops, 8 restaurants and entertainment venues, and 1 secret apartment. Years passed with the group blissfully living this way, and it seemed like the dream could go on forever. Then, one day, 4 years after making the apartment, the group found their doors kicked in and some things stolen. But it was a strange burglary. Their art, a photo album, and PlayStation were gone, but the expensive TV and silverware and items of more value were untouched. Still, the incident put Michael and his friends on high alert. They changed their routine to only staying at night when there were fewer people, and the chances of being caught were low. They doubled down on their secrecy, swearing to tell no one about the space. Many of Michael's closest friends never saw the apartment at all. One day, Michael's friend and fellow artist Jaffa was visiting from Hong Kong. He was driving her to the bus station on her way out of town when they were passing Providence Place, and he couldn't resist showing her the apartment. Just a quick look, he thought. That couldn't hurt, right? Jaffa was amazed at what the friends had created in the middle of the mall. It felt like a real home. Michael showed her the door, the wall, all the furniture, decorations, and their work. Then, they heard walkie-talkies on the other side of the door. Mall security guards burst into the space, and Michael yelled the only thing that came to mind. Surprise! The guards were the ones who had discovered the space earlier, but instead of removing the belongings and blocking the room off, they wanted to figure out who the culprits were. They had taken the photo album and personal belongings to try to find the suspect, and ever since, they had been staking out the spot, waiting for a slip-up, just like this. Michael had broken the secrecy rule, and he had to pay the price. It was all over. Michael and Jaffa were interrogated by the police. She was eventually free to go, but he was in deep trouble. He was charged with breaking and entering and trespassing, and had to go through a court trial. As the prosecutor described the apartment, listing the furniture and decorations, the judge looked around, confused at what was being outlined. He had a discussion with his advisors, and then announced something incredible. This is not a criminal act. We're not exactly sure what it was, but this is not a crime. It was a miracle for Michael. 4 years of secretly living in an apartment within the walls of the mall, rent-free, and he scraped by with hardly any consequences. He did receive a misdemeanor for...
Hey, look. Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have been in the fucking courthouse, or in the courtroom when that came out, and it was like... Prosecutor, please approach the bench. Yes, so this is not actually a crime. It's not kosher. But it's not a crime. Sorry. I suppose we could get him with a misdemeanor. Let's find out what they got him with.
For trespassing, but was released on probation.
Yeah.
The worst punishment, in Michael's mind, came from the mall authorities. They issued him an official ban for life. He had to sign a map of Providence Place that had a big red outline around the whole area, which stated that he couldn't cross the line. This was a real bummer for him. Another unexpected outcome was the media interest and public attention the case got. Multiple outlets wrote about the apartment, and Michael did interviews and went on podcasts. He and his group of friends created a blog, also called Tremorkind, documenting their experience. They scanned their sketchbook pages, uploaded handmade maps of the mall's undefined spaces, and posted videos and pictures of their mall apartment. They even made a joking housing advertisement website of the apartment, outlining the advantages of living in the mall. Over 10 years later, Michael still lived close to Providence Place, but obeyed the ban diligently. He no longer runs by it, and never goes inside. Even if he wanted to go downtown, the path that he would bike through went through the middle of the mall area. so he would always bike around it. He sometimes has to pay someone to run errands for him if they require the mall. Adriana and Michael, who are no longer married, have given talks to law school audiences and art students, and even recreated the mall apartment at a local gallery. Michael has also created another hidden project in a tunnel, an underground installation of belongings from the first 30 years of his life. The water-draining tunnel can be reached through a manhole cover and became an urban exploration destination. But the mall apartment has a special place in Michael's heart. It was a true oasis from life for him. He still wishes he could go back. Michael wasn't the only person who made a home in a building that was designed for commercial purposes. Mehran Karimi Nasseri was an Iranian refugee who lived in Terminal 1 of Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport from 1988 to 2006. He was traveling from France to the UK when his papers, issued from Belgium, were allegedly stolen. In London, he couldn't provide a passport and was sent back to France. Unable to prove his refugee status or identity, he was detained in a waiting area. Mehran lived in the airport for the next 18 years. Nasseri journaled, listened to the radio, smoked, studied economics, and ate using meal tickets from strangers or McDonald's meals they bought for him. He could often be found sitting at a red bench in a reflective trance, looking like he was meditating. A human rights lawyer took on this case, and there were offers of residency from France and Belgium. But Alfred wanted to enter his original destination, the UK, and he refused to sign papers because they classified him as Iranian instead of British. He also wanted them to list his preferred name, Sir Alfred Mehran, instead of his legal name. His family believes that living in Terminal 1 was the life that Alfred wanted. This curious story actually inspired the Steven Spielberg film, The Terminal. In 2006, after almost 2 decades of life in a Paris airport, Alfred was hospitalized and his sitting place was removed. He went on to live at a shelter in Paris, but apparently had returned to living in the airport sometime in 2022, where he sadly passed away from a heart attack in November. It would be nice to live without having to pay rent or a mortgage, but I'm sure we all prefer to have access to a bathroom, a proper kitchen, and not have to sneak in and out of our own home. Also, living without a reliable internet connection? Ooh.
So, that one that just went off screen about the guy surviving in a boat for 3 days underwater. Yeah, so I think the boat capsized, and it was mostly like it was either stuck on the bottom, like facing up, or it was just kind of like floating in the water with the I think the bow facing the sky, and he managed to survive in there until he was rescued, and he almost froze to death from hypothermia. It was crazy. Thank God he survived. That was crazy, incredible. All right, so now we are on to. Do you want to do this? Is this? Yeah, okay. Don't want to do this now. I don't want to go. Yeah, let's, so they didn't get me last time for Tales from the Crypt, and this one has a special guest star that I'm particularly fond of, so hopefully this makes it through YouTube censors when I go to cut this on for YouTube audiences. This is the Deprogrammers. I believe.
Jolom, miserable Jolom, has one of you drawn my bath?
Yes, my lord. Your bath awaits you.
This might be the outer limits, I'm not sure.
Is it hot enough for you, my lord?
It'll do. But my Saragon oil, where is it? I need the oil. Bring it to me. My Saragon oil, where is it? You Jollum are always so slow, always taxing my considerable patience.
Oh, come on, man.
You realize how difficult Saragon oil is for me to obtain? What I have to go through to get it?
Oh, wow.
What? Are you just going to stand there? Clean the mess up.
Yes, my lord.
Ah, good. When do you leave for rejuvenation training?
Today, my lord. Shortly.
Not that I care. All of you Jolim are alike to me. Still, I suppose you've been serving me longer than most.
I know my happiness rests in my being able to serve you, my lord.
Not like some of your fellow human vermin. You know, bomb went off outside sector headquarters this morning. Do these insurgent fools really believe they can reclaim this miserable planet?
I have no idea, my lord.
Megwan is using the activities of these so-called vindicators to undermine my authority here. He's trying to take my command away from me, I know it. One of these days, I shall have to crush Megwan.
I'm sure whatever my lord decides to do will be for the best.
How long will you be gone?
Rejuvenation lasts 3 days and 3 nights, my lord.
Oh, I suppose it's necessary. I hope they train you better than that worthless excuse for a joke. It would be a shame for you to suffer the same fate.
So I think I vaguely remember this episode, and it's not Tales from the Crypt. I think this is Outer Limits.
The lights in the tunnel have temporarily ceased working. Stay seated on the bus until the lighting is back online.
It's your wake-up call.
Hey!
You've been kidnapped.
There is nothing wrong with your television. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are now controlling the transmission. We control the horizontal and the vertical. We can deluge you with 1,000 channels or expand one single image to crystal clarity and beyond. We can shape your vision to anything our imagination can conceive. For the next hour, we will control all that you see and hear. You experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the deepest inner
This is probably
mind
gonna. I'm
to
probably gonna have to cut
the
this.
outer limits. At what point does a human being's free will cease to exist? And if we have forfeited our free will, are we still human?
It's time to snap out of that deep, Walking Dead sleep you've been in. Come on! Stand up! must have hurt. Did it? You can't speak. Then just nod. Did it hurt? Did it? It's hell thawing you Jollum out. Stand up. You're a big boy. You can do it. Stand up. Okay. Time for something different.
Man, they must brainwash these guys really hard.
I ask, you answer. I tell you to do something, you do it. Acknowledge me. I'm a human being, just like you are. Acknowledge that I'm real. Jollum. You feel that?
Must be his wife or something.
The Torcor didn't perform surgery on you. They didn't cut the wiring. They just screwed with your head. They conditioned you to ignore pain, to pretend it wasn't there. I don't want you to ignore it. I want you to feel it. I want you to rejoin the human race. That old Jollum conditioning. Pretty strong stuff. Yeah.
I think it's
Let it fix, my man. You can't go back to your precious milord. He'd ask why you're not in rejuvenation. And then he'll
I think it's a what would you call it? Not a bastardization of the word golem, but a there we go, a derivative of the word golem.
There's no help coming. What are you going to do about it? Answer me. Do something to show me you're alive. Come on! What do I have to do? Break a couple of ribs?
Davis. That's it. That's enough.
Oh, yeah? You think that's enough? Well, I'm going to kill this son of a bitch.
Look, why don't you cool off? Let me talk to him.
Go ahead. Be my guest. But you're wasting your time. Torcor generated waste.
Damn. So the enemy is called the Torcor.
I had no idea it was going to be like this. I've never been through one of these before. I guess you haven't either. You're going to be all right. Let's just take you over here and lay you down. Come on, lie down. Catch your breath. There you go. That's a little better, isn't it? Yeah, you're going to be all right.
What?
I didn't realize deprogramming was this brutal.
I remember watching westerns when I was a kid. The cowboys would go on a cattle drive. Cattle would always get caught in a flash flood, be too stupid to swim for it, so they just stood there and drowned. That's what the Jollum reminded me of. Cattle. You have to hit them with a sledgehammer to get their attention. Just when they're reeling, you hit them with a little sweet talk to really confuse them.
Look, I know this is overwhelming. I mean, if I were you, I'd be flipping out, pounding the walls. But trust me, there is no way out. The only way to survive this is to listen to what the man says and respond. Even if it is just to tell him to go to hell. Look. Try not to worry, okay? You're gonna get through this, I know it.
On your own two feet. You can do it. Using human power.
You're better off than you are.
Enjoy video. To enjoy human race. With your insides. Do something. No help. Waste. 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 Waste.
I don't think you're gonna be able to crack this one.
Want to bet? $1 million? $2 million? Stuff's just laying around. We can bet anything we want.
We only have 3 days to break him and put him back together again.
I'm well aware of our time schedule.
Why did you leave him alone?
Give him time to think about what we said. I really like that try not to worry part. It's only natural for them to start worrying even more.
This is just a game to you, isn't it, Davis?
You don't know a damn thing about me, lady. Or the process. So why don't you keep your judgments to yourself?
This is not data that we're talking to.
It's what I said about his precious master. The idea of doing something against its wishes is enough to scare the ever-loving piss out of him. Pretty soon he'll get the urge to escape, run back to his master and beg for forgiveness. It's all part of his conditioning.
So then you can use that fear against him.
You're damn right. Look, we're trying to reclaim a life here. You of all people should want that. Look. We should have made that bet. Find this interesting. There are no mirrors in the Torquer's house. They have no use for them. Well, they're vain about their possessions and their accomplishments, but not about their looks. You ever gotten a good look at one of those guys? Come on. You know you're curious. Is rushing up from his unconscious. An hallucination planted by the Torquer, triggered by his realization that he shouldn't be here, shouldn't be looking at himself. Now he's paying the price. Rise and shine! Now, isn't that better than that yucky yellow stuff your milord bathes in? What is that crap anyway? What's wrong? You don't like water spraying in your face? Well, showers are one of the greatest inventions of mankind. They're invigorating. They make you feel alive. Huh? You're no fun at all, you know that? Dry yourself off, will you? You're dripping water all over the floor. Then put that on. I gotta hand it to the Torkor. Anything that might confirm your old sense of self, they take away. Your clothes, for instance. And replace with this bland, boring rag. Something a eunuch might wear. You'd like your security blanket back, wouldn't you? Take this out and burn it. Yes, yes, yes. Sound the alarm. You love your master, don't you? You do anything for him. What is it exactly that you love about him? It can't be his looks. What is it that binds you to him? What is it that makes you want to serve him without question? Could it be his voice? I gotta admit, he has a wonderful voice. All of the Torkor do. You love the sound of his voice. The sound of your master's voice. Listen to him. Listen to him now. Listen to what the master really sounds like. Hypnotism. During Bliss training, they conditioned you to think that each time you hear one of them, you're hearing the voice of God. I'd hardly call that the voice of God, would you? What's your master's name? His real name? What is it? Colsus? Cold talk.
Golem are never allowed to call my lord by his real name.
I'm not Jolem. He's not Jolem. Nobody here is Jolem.
I am Jolem.
No. You're not. Not deep inside. I know you don't remember, but there was life before the Torkor.
The reports are coming in fast and furious now. What started with a ship landing on the mall in Washington, D.C. only a week ago?
The invasion happened less than 2 years ago, by our calendar. The human calendar. They came and damn near wiped out a civilization that lasted for over 2,000 years. A civilization of people. Human beings. Like you. Me.
It wasn't a perfect world by any means, but it was our world. The joy we were able to feel was our joy. The pain we suffered was our pain.
The Torkor took all that away from us. Destroyed it. They killed millions. Millions more were shipped off the planet. Who knows where, for what purpose? Those still alive here on Earth, those who didn't escape to the underground, they turned to something called Jolum.
Jolum is my only reason for being.
They programmed you to think that.
The Lord is everything to me.
Programming.
My Lord is all-knowing, all-seeing, and I am
Truly blessed to be able to serve him. I know that my happiness rests in being able to serve him. Programming. You had a life. Before the Torkor took over. And with that life, you had a name. The name you were born with.
Evan.
Right. Right. Evan.
Hi, Jill. I hope you received this. Things don't look too good right now. We don't know who or what we're fighting. The weapons these invaders have, beyond anything we could conceive. I just want to get this off before I go back out on patrol again. I miss you, Jill. God, I realized I miss you so much. I don't know if we're ever going to see each other again, but I hope that you know I love you. I'll always love you.
Hello, Evan. I never thought I'd see you again either.
Watch, he's gonna try to bolt.
I hate what they're doing to you. I'd heard about deprogramming, but I had no idea what it really entailed. I am not proud to be a part of this, but it's the only way to get you to remember who you were. I'm not gonna hurt you.
Who am I? What am I supposed to be?
Human?
You're Evan Robert Cooper.
And you? What are you supposed to be?
Your wife.
My wife. Is that supposed to mean something to me?
Yeah, well, yeah.
It did.
Once?
Once. You need to eat. Look. It's chicken. They tell me the mush the Torkor make the Jolum eat have an appetite suppressant in it. That it's been a while since you've had any solid food. So you shouldn't eat too much. Believe it or not, it's really pretty good. You try it? Please? For me?
Ever watch a tiger pace back and forth in his cage at the zoo?
Last time you looked here, you had a terrible hallucination. But it's out of your system. It's just me. Don't be afraid. Look. It's you. Evan Robert Cooper. The man I married. Relax. Get to know that person again. What he looks like. What he feels. I always liked your lips.
Oh, shit.
You were always a great kisser.
She's doing very well.
You win. I missed you, Evan. I can't tell you how many times I cried myself to sleep, wishing you were there. I just wanted to touch you.
Why?
Because that is what human beings do when they're attracted to each other.
Children aren't allowed to touch anybody. Ever!
What's that you're saying about a tiger?
We're having a dream. Go ahead, baby. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Let it out. Let it out. We've all had to cry. We've all had to cry till we can't cry anymore.
What's happening to me?
You're becoming human again.
What's that mean? Becoming human.
You're starting to feel things again.
I don't understand. I see all these pictures. People.
It's good. That means your memory is coming back.
Why can't you just leave me alone?
Because the Torquor delighted in turning our best and brightest into slaves. And you were a terrific soldier, Evan. And we need you. We're vindicators.
Rebels.
Rebels. Vindicators. The underground. Whatever you want to call us. Davis found me not so long ago, hiding out from the Torquor. He trained me. And now I help to preserve what it means to be human. Let's take a walk.
I thought you were gonna do this part.
No, no. Let her do it.
It's just up here. Come on. We call this the museum room. The people who used to own this place called these things props. But now they're remnants of an Earth that once was. For us, this is a place of memories that we can't allow ourselves to forget. Look. Credit card. Do you remember credit cards? You and I had more of these than we should have had. Guess we don't have to worry about paying them off. We still have music, thank God. As long as we have batteries and generators. You used to love big-time action hero movies? With all those big stars? I wonder where they are right now. I wonder what happened to all the famous people. Heaven?
We've lost everything.
No. We're still alive. We're still fighting.
No. They're too strong. I've worked for them. I've lived with them.
They underestimate us. They think we're just some low form of
really need to sleep.
and they ever will. That's where our strength lies. That's what gives us hope.
We are a very hardy and combative and resistant breed.
I've never stopped loving you.
Oh yeah, baby girl. Nice timing.
I've wanted to do that since I first saw you.
Oh, there he is. That's the man. Welcome back, son.
Nicole. Jill?
Jill? What happened to her? What happened to our daughter?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
They killed her.
Who? The Torkor?
They killed all the children, Evan. They didn't have any use for them. And those who ordered it done. Your beloved master, Koltok.
Wow. It's some dark shit right there. Wow. Well, that gives somebody motivation, doesn't it?
You want to kill Kaltok, don't you?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
For what he did to your daughter?
Yes.
Because we want you to kill him too. We've made several assassination attempts on Kaltok, and all of them have failed.
So, it is kind of weird. Is all of this taking place inside a 3-day window? I mean, I think that's what the plan is. We are near the end of the episode, so I guess. Let's find out.
It's hard to get close to any of the Torkor leaders. They're so damn security conscious. Especially Kaltok. He's so paranoid about that rival of his, Megwan.
You just can't walk into the Lord's house anymore. Who? Kaltok.
Good.
He'll know I wasn't at Rejuvenation.
Yeah, well, that's where I lied. Someone's filling in for you there. Luckily, the Torkor don't keep picture IDs of slaves, so it wasn't hard to make the trade-off. We'll switch you back after Rejuvenation concludes.
I won't be able to sneak a weapon in there, let alone get close enough to use it on him.
Ah. Well, that's where this comes in.
Just listen to them. I'll be waiting for you here when you get back. And then we can be together. Forever.
He just looks suspicious. You're like, this guy's still a Jolum.
I brought this back from Rejuvenation, my lord.
Proceed, Jolo.
It is your favorite. As you said, difficult to obtain.
Yes, yes. Cease your prattling and get on with it, Jolo. You miserable fool! Wish to suffer the same fate as that other pitiful Jolum? Now get on with it. Train this idiot. What have you done, Jolum? What have you done, Jolum? I am not Jolum! Obey me, Jolum! I am the Lord!
No! You are Kaltok!
My name is Evan.
My name is Evan.
Wow. Look, wife, I have brought you a trophy.
It's done.
I can't believe it.
I did it for Nicole. I did it for all the children.
I know, honey.
It's not gonna bring her back, is it?
No. No, it's not.
You think I'd be happy it's dead?
Of course you should be. We're all happy it's dead. Especially my lord.
My lord?
You Jolum have done me a great service.
Your Koltok's rival, Megwa.
Yeah.
I figured.
And now, thanks to you, his successor.
I take it my lord is pleased.
Yes. This means you can continue your research on your fellow human beings, Professor Davis, and enjoy your privileged status among us.
I'm truly blessed.
So you were never part of it? The underground?
Afraid not.
The rebels are in you! Let me out!
The rebels are nothing.
No!
The rebels are a minor nuisance at most.
How can you do
Don't
this?
you see? No real resistance is possible.
You!
No!
Traitor!
No!
Each of us survives in our own way.
And your way is to once again be nothing more than Jolum. Plain, simple, obedient Jolum. Take these two to Bliss training. It will be interesting to see how many times a human being can successfully be reprogrammed.
Wow.
Isn't that what you wanted? The two of you, together? Forever.
God, that is fucking ghoulish.
You are Jolum. You serve my lord. 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 You are Jolum. You serve my lord.
Damn, he's already sunk back into it.
For centuries, philosophers have wrestled with the question, is man able to decide his destiny through his own actions? Or does fate have the final say?
So depressing.
This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum. This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And this week he's taking another look at the weapons
I
from
like
the
this guy's
2022
stuff.
remake of Resident Evil 4, including the iconic
Real world
Chicago
firearms,
Sweeper and of course its legendary infinite ammo reload.
The Thompson, I remember
Expertise
this
is pretty
from
interesting.
the original version. No, this one's much improved, I think. But we still got, and I remember that it was a reload animation, complete with a little spin and a tip of the hat.
God, yeah. Make sure to subscribe and check out our other video on the guns of the remake of Resident Evil 4, and let us know what other games or guns you'd like to see Jonathan break down in the comments section below.
It's a blacktail pistol, real quick.
What it's supposed to look like is the M model. It's a compact pistol, so it's smaller than what's shown on screen. Having cross-referenced with some imagery, though, the RE4 remake version is looking pretty good. It's got all of the right design features, a couple of minor differences. I think the finger grooves on the front are probably taken from the Gen wise, but it's not kind of slavish.
Yeah, Sentinel
Quite
9.
capture the significance of.
kinda
Otherwise, it's a pistol. You know, what are you going to do? With
Skull shaker
these
shotgun.
big curved flanges that appear to be on this series before. It's relatively short-barreled, but it does still have the buttstock, and it's not as short as the version in the game, which has done a good job, I think. The one thing that stuck out for me that I've never seen before, and I suspect is entirely made up, is the way they've modified the lever with these big curved flanges that appear to be part of the lever, which you could put on there, I suppose, if you wanted to. And then when it's closed, they are covering a lot of the grip. So as you grip the why they've gone for that, other than maybe
Riot gun.
rather more pronounced sights, which are certainly standard now. Game version has much more traditional minimalist shotgun sights on it, so that might reflect the sort of 20 years ago era of the game. After edged weapons and armor and Asian and African collection, it back with your fingers, you break it almost like an air gun, and it shooting tray as it concealed. I guess it's so overt it's covert. Not really a crossbow either, because it and releasing it and using a string.
Okay, so these are non-real world weapons right here.
This is very cool. This is a specific Steyr TMP holster. It's marked
Those are
TMP,
nice.
1993. This is not a normal holster. Let me just demonstrate how this works. So this would be sitting under my coat. Wraps around your shoulders like a normal shoulder holster.
Concealed carry.
What I am going to show you though is how this in a very cool fashion breaks out of the
that's
holster,
fucking
and
cool.
you're ready to punch it out and start shooting with it.
Yeah.
Quite an unusual bit of kit that we find sights removed.
SRM 109.
Receiver.
I'm sorry, N1903 rifle. I didn't look at it.
The initial sort of gun viewer shot that I'm seeing has a slightly horrific Picatinny mount. I'm not sure how that's supposed to. I don't recognise it. It was probably made up. Two things I noticed about this.
Yep.
One is the rate of fire is pretty high. The all Maxim guns chug along at
the
about
Maxim gun.
500-ish rounds per minute, a bit slow. Bolt operation
and the classic Tommy gun.
You pull the trigger.
If you want to see the whole episode, go ahead and look at it for yourself.
At all, frankly.
I just wanted to give like a highlight type thing for that. Let's see. The mall we looked at. That we looked at. And this one's only like 4 and some change long. So let's take a look at this.
Let's go.
Oh, he likes it. Oh no. Sweet. This is pretty cool and super fucking original. I mean, it's not the only horror concept for this game that I've seen, but
Mario. Mario, just having a mushroom.
he does not look happy. You alright, Mario? Oh, wow. This got really fucking dark really fucking quickly.
It's me, and this has been a long time coming.
Mario. I mean, it's not an altogether unrealistic way for the scenario to be presented.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you want
That
to see,
was that was brilliant and dark and wow.
It helps us out, and we don't release enough videos for it to be annoying.
Oh,
I promise.
I am
But yeah,
subscribed to
I appreciate you guys
Nukazuka.
watching. And Nintendo, if you're watching, sorry. But yeah,
So
guys,
I've probably
thank you so much.
I've probably
See you guys
watched a
next
bunch
time.
of this stuff before, even before I started streaming. That was a cool. And this guy right here. This is the Rubber. He's a digital animator, and he does cover a lot of things. But SCP is one of his the things he covers. Give him a like and a subscribe. I've been watching this guy for a long time. Haven't seen this one before though.
I'm curled on the floor, staring. Viewer discretion is advised. Dr. Miyazawa entered the cell, only to be greeted by the sight of her interview subject lying curled on the floor, staring at the ceiling with its remaining eye. You're clearly in a state of acute distress. I've been told you received morphine this morning. Has it helped? No. Okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you describe your
Apologize
pain?
for that. Don't know what
There
that
is
was.
no scale that could possibly capture the pain I feel at this moment. A 10 then, she said and noted on her report. You again display unusual calm and clarity, despite your ongoing predicament. There's a separation. I don't know what else to call it. The pain is visceral, nauseating. I'm in unending agony, but it also feels like an out-of-body experience. The subject then started a coughing fit, causing black smoke to emanate from its orifices, both natural ones and ones caused by 7027. Is Khan on duty? Officer Khan? Yes, he is. Why? Can you ask him to put a bullet through my head? Hello, everybody. I'm
Wow.
the Rubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Euclid Class Object SCP-7027. SCP-7027, also known as A is for Annihilation, designates an anomalous phenomena primarily harnessed as a process of physical transfiguration and psychological augmentation by members of a monastic order located in the Karakoram mountain range. Individuals infected by 7027 are classified as SCP-7027-1. The anomaly initially manifests as a 15 to 25 millimeter diameter black circular dot on the center of an affected individual's forehead. This mark superficially resembles a decorative bindi, but is irremovable unless surgically excised soon after infection. As 7027 progresses, it will consume the face of its host, causing the front of the skull to sink and eventually collapse into an interdeterminately deep void before slowly spreading to the rest of the body. Flesh
Jeez.
blackened by 7027 does not reflect light and will, over a period of time, develop holes and fissures that further disfigure 7027-1. And like the aperture that consumed much of the host's head, displays physically impossible interior dimensions. Objects introduced to these voids are ultimately unrecoverable. 7027 created cavities produce a continuous discharge, the emanation visibly behaving in a manner similar to a hot gas or plasma, but appearing almost completely
probably
opaque.
turn the closed
All
captions
efforts
off
to
on this
extract
one.
a sample have failed, leaving its chemical composition unknown. The Foundation has yet to uncover the exact source of 7027, but physical symptoms of infection follow only after the monks have confined themselves within the walls of the monastery. These interiors are just large enough to allow for meditation and function as a form of sensory deprivation. The monks believe that, by immersing themselves in darkness, they allow their bodies to become its host. The Foundation became aware of 7027 in 1956, following reports of unusual disfigurements occurring among members of an isolated Buddhist sect in Tibet. The residents of neighboring villages commonly referred to them as the Empty Ones. Foundation classified them as GOI 0184.
GOI stands for Group of Interest.
They practice an extreme form of asceticism and forbid
Asceticism, sorry.
the use of personal names, depictions of the human form, or even the preservation of its own history. It is believed by members of GOI 0184 that enlightenment can only be achieved through drastic humility. To do this, they must be purged of vanity and pride. Through 7027, the monks believe they can permanently escape samsara, which is the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Members of GOI 0184 practice ritual self-mortification, believing that pain, humiliation, self-denial, and disfigurement aid in the destruction of ego. Prior to containment, methods of humiliation often involve visiting neighboring villages where the monks would smear themselves in dirt and ash, and non-verbally beg or incite the locals into physically assaulting them. Despite frequent injury and infection, this behavior has never been observed to result in fatalities. The monks of GOI 0184 maintain a vow of silence, making it difficult for the Foundation to gather information about the group via interviews. However, on the 9th of December 1997, a security officer entered the Site 95 infirmary to request medication for what he believed at the time to be a sinus headache. Medical personnel immediately noticed a black spot on his forehead. After a thorough physical examination, determined that the subject was infected by 7027 and exhibited the first visible symptom of SCP-7027-1 transformation. The security guard was classified as anomalous and received the SCP-7027-1 251 designation. 251 willingly cooperated with its containment and observation, becoming a critical source of information. I know this may be regarded as unprofessional, but I wish to offer my sincerest apology. Had we known infection could occur in such a manner, we would have certainly taken stronger safety precautions. You couldn't have known. Well, still, we will do everything we can to undo your predicament and hopefully prevent this from happening in the future.
So how is it
With that
contagious
said,
then?
I wish to ask you a few questions about the days leading up to your current condition. Did you by any chance directly interact with any SCP-7027-1? Any physical contact? No. What about the monastery? Did you ever access its inner walls? Just routine patrols. Never lingered long. Well, how do you feel? You seem rather calm, considering your situation. I don't feel anything. I know I should. I should feel scared. But instead I feel nothing at all. And I should be angry. Angry that I can't feel, right? I know what my brain wants. It wants to scream. It wants to rage. But instead, nothing. Just emptiness. It's like trying to locate a word in the dictionary only to find that it's been cut out. Now there's just a hole. By early 1998, 7027 had spread to 251's left eye. It formed a vein that wrapped around the subject's neck and connected to a newly formed black mark located at the cervical region of the spine. 251 will occasionally report headaches before expelling dark smoke and sludge from its mouth. Subject suffered frequent and violent tremors, causing the body to contort unnaturally and for the subject to walk with a stiff, shambling gait. As 7027-1 belonging to GOI 0184 do not display similar reactions, it is possible that their teachings and practices, particularly meditation, ultimately allows them to better tolerate the effects of 7027 infection. During one of the interviews with the subject as its infection progressed, it asked for a merciful termination by the hands of its former colleague. But due to the research potential presented by 251, the request was denied.
That is
251's
brutal.
transformation displayed significant deviation from other 7027-1 instances, warping the body in conjunction with its increasing number of void pits, each of which steadily grew in circumference at a rate of approximately half an inch per year, and fusing the subject to the containment room floor.
Holy
By late
crap.
2001, 251 lost the ability to see, but retained its mouth and right ear. Hello, it's that time again. How do you feel? Would you kindly describe your recent experiences? The shadows. They won't stop. They reach inside and take, and take, and take. Greedy claws that scrape and tear. I'd bleed for you, but all I have to offer is dust and oil. A part of me is in agony, but that part is falling deeper and deeper. Oh, how afraid he must be. A cool sludge moves beneath my skin. It was always there, as far as I remember. The subject then vomited a black spewage in its hand. Oh no, it came out. How clumsy of me. It then smeared the substance across the floor, where it rapidly evaporated. You mentioned shadows earlier. Do you see something? Because I don't have eyes, you can't just assume that there are skittering shapes in darkness. 100 bodies, each 100 legs. Can you smell my fumes? It's incense. It lingers on my tongue and tastes like forgotten dreams. The subject's speech began to trail off, and before long, it lost consciousness. It would not regain consciousness until 14 days after the interview, and was unaware of its last conversation, displaying increased memory loss and confusion. By late 2001, the subject's lower body and left arm coalesced into a shapeless, hardened mound, and its remaining epidermis developed a gray, cracked appearance. Spiraling, round and round. It muttered, while expelling black, foul-smelling fume from its orifices. Do you remember my voice? Do you know who this is? Mommy?
Oh, wow.
It's cold. It's so cold. No, I'm Dr. Miyazawa. Do you remember your name? Tragic, tragic. What miserable ingrates we are. The end comes for us all. Suddenly, what remained of the subject's skull caved in, followed by the complete collapse of its body.
Wow.
Phew, get me out of here and secure the chamber. 251's collapsed body spread across the containment chamber as its void apertures merged to create a single portal, which was designated SCP-7027-2. Unlike other 7027-1, 251 failed to fully annihilate, with its remaining husk forming a 3.2-meter radius ring around the newly manifested anomaly, and rendering 7027-2 permanently fixed for the time being. 7027-2's interior displays properties identical to smaller SCP-7027 created void apertures.
So is he still alive in there somewhere?
7027-2's size and apparent stability, a probe was sent in. Site 95 did not receive any notable transmissions until 2020. Collected data includes a number of images depicting gold-colored artificial structures which together appear to form a sprawling metropolis. Further research is pending.
That's crazy. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, if you're looking for some good spooky stuff, the Rubber, he's got some really good videos. Trying to finding a video for games coming out. Well, obviously you can see what I'm doing. All right. We are only okay.
2023 has already had some amazing games this year, but coming up in the next couple months, it's just going to get better. Let's see what's coming out in April. Here are some of the top games coming out in April that I'm excited for. Make sure to comment if I missed any and which ones you are hoping to jump into in the comments. The first 1,000 people to comment will be the first 1,000 people to have commented. And speaking of thousands and thousands of people, this first game is probably going to have that many players. Meet Your Maker. Coming out now, Meet Your Maker from Behavior Interactive is a first-person base-building, raid-based game, and it's got co-op. You work for the Chimera, a massive living experiment that's created to be the last best hope to save Earth, and to do so, you are a custodian working for the Chimera. You raid enemies' bases that players have actually created themselves. And
Yeah, I've heard about this
skipping
game.
past traps to find death and returning with resources to upgrade your own base and character, collecting suits and weapons, items, traps, and enemies to put in your
Kinda
own
looks
base.
interesting.
You're not only rewarded just for getting out there and going through enemies' bases lickety-split, but also for sending other players to dirt naps in your own maps. Able to record patrol routes for their own forces, place explosive traps, as well as change the entire makeup of the base once an enemy has got your resources and is trying to escape in one last bid to kill them. There's an incredible amount of variety in Meet Your Maker, and that editor looks sweet. Put it through fortresses, feed back to friends, and find more foes and Meet Your Maker soon. A bit first person, a bit base builder, a bit go till you have to quit resource gathering game. And it's on pretty much every single platform. Next up is Road 96 Mile Zero. This is a prequel to the original Road 96 graphical narrative adventure. The road games are like Life is Strange, mixed with musical interludes and mini-games, psychedelic musical trips mixed with more down-to-earth emotional choices. This game takes place in White Sands, the condominium that the main characters Zoe and Kato have left in the original game. Road 96 scored incredibly high and was noted for excellent storytelling and a unique take on the narrative adventure. Mile Zero seems to continue that, and it's available, well, it should be out right now. Next up, Sherlock Holmes Awakened. Frogwares, the proverbial example of a hit and miss developers, coming back with what we can hope is a hit. It could also be a miss, in the form of a remake and a retelling of Sherlock Holmes The Awakened, originally a 2007 game. The fine folks at Frog are remaking it in today's image, a mixture of Sherlock Holmes and the Cthulhu mythos. Sherlock's never been more scared than he is right now in this game. He's more of a man of reason, so discovering an alien being that defines reasoning is both revelatory and shattering to Sherlock. His obsession with the truth is going to drive him to the brink of insanity in this game. It's something that was an excellent game when it was originally released, but Frogwares is trying to bring it up to today's standards. The Awakened is set in 1882 and reveals how Sherlock Holmes and John were just roommates at the time, becoming the renowned detective duo. They are adjusting the visuals, the narrative, animations, mechanics, and even the addition of an insanity gameplay style.
I need
that
more
all
coffee.
been revamped thanks to the use of Unreal. Third-person detective games are not a dime a dozen, but Frogwares themselves have a huge number of entries in this category. Some, like I said earlier, hits and
I'm gonna
misses.
have to check that out.
Awaken comes after a couple misses, so let's hope this gets them back on track. And that's coming around April 11th. Next up, Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores DLC. Horizon Forbidden West was a knockout, one of the prettiest games to hit the PlayStation series of consoles, and Forbidden West is being expanded with a massive DLC where you explore a ruined LA in Burning Shores. And you get to explore a new land. To the south of the Clan lands, the remains of the Los Angeles area has been shaped into a perilous archipelago by years of volcanic eruptions and seismic activity. And of course, that means Aloy has to find a reason to go there. In this original title, Aloy finds out that Hero's job is never done and is just waiting for the last credit stinger in a game. And now a sinister new threat to the world is there. This is a title where the main creatures look spectacular. Massive boss battles already shown seem to one-up even the main game. Now, speaking of that, it does have one unique issue I want to bring up. You have to beat the main game to play this DLC. With a current trend of less than 20 to 25% of gamers beating a game when they get it, it seems like this DLC won't and can't see the large audience that may be interested. We'll just have to see how this is done, or if maybe they give you a save game, but it doesn't sound like they do. Also, the DLC is for the PS5 only. That's around April 18th. And the next up is a game I've been looking forward to since the very first trailer. This is Xbox and PC. It's the last case of Benedict Fox. It's a 2D paranormal platforming investigation game. While posing as Benedict Fox, you explore a hellish underworld as the main character, a self-proclaimed investigator that's shackled in some way to a demon. You use the demon's unholy connection to delve into the thoughts of recently deceased characters in the game for answers as you investigate the murder and disappearance of a young couple at their massive, possibly haunted, but just really for sure very scary looking estate. An intriguing Burton-esque looking art style brings this mysterious tale to life as you enter this world of shadowy organizations, forbidden rites, and ruthless crimes, and you investigate it using a demon. A Lovecraftian Metroidvania is what this is called. You explore the minds of the victims to find the clues and to battle other demons. Quick thinking skills, a bit of strategy, and an iron will is going to be needed to get all the way through the madness here as you fight demons and monsters and cultists. Use your weapons, your abilities, and the environment against them. This game just looks slick. The art style speaks to me, and that creepy, but I want to explore just a little bit more.
That looks really good.
Art style is what continually pulls me through games like this. Like a kid getting ready to be the first one eaten on Stranger Things. This comes out April 27th. And next up is one that you're probably hearing more news about right now because of a preview event, and then also in the next coming weeks before we get to its release, and then
the new Jedi game.
Survivor. So Star Wars Fallen Order did a ton right in its bid to get and help Star Wars games go back on track. A Dark Souls style, at least light, titled, heavy on the narrative though, following a Jedi named Cal through a huge mystery, taking on enemies with all sorts of weapons, including, of course, the lightsaber. In the sequel, which is Survivor, it's 5 years after the game, and Cal's still on the run as the Galactic Empire stamping out any remaining Jedi that they can find. While the Empire is gathering more and more enemies to fight against him, he's gathering
I'll probably
more
play
people
this
on
if it
his
comes
side
out on
for an
Xbox
epic
Game
battle.
Pass.
And battle and combat is actually one of the things that changed here. Cal now has 4 specific stances to use for lightsaber combat, each with its own weaknesses and strengths. We even got single and double-bladed lightsabers, as well as a Kylo Ren-styled old European crossguard lightsaber that makes its way into the game. Now, despite the danger to himself, his friends, or his wrists with that lightsaber, Cal's geared up for a huge battle, and this won't be coming out on the Xbox or PlayStation 4, leaving the last gen behind completely. It's only on the Series X and S and the PlayStation 5. It's also exciting to know that it will be relegated to 28 different colors of robe, like the original game. While I love my space sword, starfaring, fighting, puce-colored Jedi Pope as much as anybody, it's time to branch out with a ton of crafting and no longer just go for the ponchos. Combat, mid, and in-game grind was a little bit of an issue in the first game, and all of this appears to be fixed in Survivor. It looks like everything is here for Classic. We'll just have to wait. And speaking of waiting, next up is Dead Island 2. This one has been so long in waiting that the title could just explain those who passed away at one of the game's much-moved release date parties. But we're here on the home stretch, and for the past several months, I've been hearing all of these rumors about the game actually being very good due to a more contained gameplay experience. And with recent previews, it seems to be backing that up completely. First up, Dead Island 2 goes away from the huge open world of, let's say, Dying Light 2, the game's main competitor, and is more of a large level based around a hub style of game, with you going out into specific levels, taking on enemies and bosses, collecting loot, crafting, upgrading, and killing enemies with a new destruction system. LA, zombies, crazy characters, impromptu weapons, gore, and guns. That's what makes Dead Island 2 look like it's going to build on the successes of Dead Island 1. Maybe not Riptide. Now, Dead Island may not have the movement of Dying Light, but it's got the guns, and you get to use them all as you move through through LA's most popular locations, take out the zombies,
That's nice.
say a few one-liners, slay some enemies that are trying to
It's
kill you,
Fallout
collect all
weapon,
the ammo
but
and
still
crafting parts
nice.
that you
Shish
need.
kebab.
First person, hacking and slashing, that's the kind of game I like. Next up is an honorable mention, just because I've already covered it in a review, which you can check out in the links. Hogwarts Legacy is coming out for past-gen consoles. Regarding this game, I loved it. It had some issues, but it's actually much more enjoyable as a third-person action game or RPG than I ever expected. That being said, it is a heavy game on the processor and GPU. Past-gen platforms are going to have a rough time of this, technically, especially if the previous versions, including the PC version, are any real indicator where the game really shows that while you can get it to run, it's quite difficult and not necessarily optimized. I'm excited to see how this is going to handle the split release, with the originals already having come out on the Series X, S, and PlayStation, and now on the PlayStation 4 and the original Xbox. This is going to be a title to check out because there are still a ton of consumers out there with these systems. April's packed with these titles, some huge, some small, indies, double A's, triple A's. Some will succeed.
I wonder
some
if,
will slide into the inevitable discussion of, do you remember that game years from now?
I wonder if
But I'm
Hogwarts
actually
Legacy
stoked
is
for April.
on
Add in yours in the comments, subscribe to help the
Game
channel,
Pass.
fight the YouTube algorithm that's burying pretty much everything, and make sure to hit the notify all button. If I've saved you any money or warned you away from a bad game, join the Patreon. I buy every game I cover. We do weekly podcasts and have an amazing Discord community with over 1,000 people playing and streaming and discussing games. And it always helps.
On January 27th, 2021, the initial trailer was released for a zombie survival game called The Day Before. It was hype. People
No.
loved it. And who can blame them? Zombies have been at the forefront
Let's look at
of
cloud
entertainment media for years now. Despite that, we haven't seen too many success stories in the gaming space. There is definitely a lot of mileage left for zombie games. The trailer quickly drew reactions from gaming content creators, and it wasn't long before questions started to be asked regarding not only the quality of what was on display, but the validity of the entire project. After all, who were these developers? What they...
My apologies. Probably have to cut that out. Actually, yeah.